People are so confused about gender that we now live in an era where over 300 gender definitions exist. In fact, according to this video, there are endless gender definitions.
The single most common question I get asked is, are you a boy or are you a girl? The simple answer is no. But then the response after that is usually a very confused, what? So here is the explanation. I am non-binary, and that means I identify as something other than male or female. Our society and history has led us to believe over thousands of years that there are only people who are male and people who are female. It's outdated. The truth is that gender is in the brain, and physical sex is a completely separate and different thing that is private to every individual. What people really mean when they're asking the boy or girl question is creepily, so, what genitals do you have? People need to realize it doesn't matter what living meat skeleton you've been born in, it's what you feel that defines you. Non-binary is a blanket term for anyone who identifies out with the binary gender. There are endless ways of being non-binary, and no two people identify in the same way. So just remember, gender is what you feel, not what your parts are.
Don't you understand, people? Facts don't matter. Facts are outdated. What are you talking about facts for? We live in a post-truth society. Now it's only what you feel that counts. Feelings override reality. So now we have affect you gender, when someone feels like their gender changes based on their mood. Bog gender, when someone feels their gender is like a swamp. Boy flux, when one feels mostly boy but experiences fluctuating levels of male identity. Capri gender, when someone feels their gender changes rapidly and randomly. Call gender, when someone feels that they have too many genders to describe. And how about dry gender, when someone feels their gender is best represented by an empty, tranquil forest. This is clearly spectacular nonsense, and it's a sad indictment of our era that we're now so far into the left pit of feelings over facts that we now have to spend an entire episode re-establishing one of the clearest and most undeniable facts of reality, that there are just two genders, male and female. But such has been the cultural shift into the left pit that even the biggest organisations in the world are currently pandering to these delusions. Facebook, for example, has currently provided 71 different gender options for users to accommodate these fantasies. But see, the problem for liberals in all of this is that the truth doesn't adapt to their delusions. Science and facts are not politically correct. Sorry to break it to this girl, but she's female. It doesn't matter what she feels. Her biological DNA has already decided the issue, whether she accepts it or not. So let's bring some truth back into this issue and deal with some of the common liberal arguments for transgenderism. No, you can't literally change gender. It is scientifically impossible. Genes fundamentally determine our sex. So humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, and within these chromosome pairs we are coded with DNA. DNA is literally intelligent programming written using a 4-letter chemical alphabet. It determines everything about us, our height, our hair colour, our eye colour, everything. The first 22 chromosome pairs are microscopically identical in men and women, but the 23rd pair is different. It is that chromosome pair that defines whether we are male or female. Females have 2 X chromosomes while men have an X and Y chromosome. So in other words, men and women are simply coded differently, and that's why we develop into very similar but ultimately different beings. Now we can make efforts to mask those differences, so we can use cosmetic surgery and injected hormones and makeup and hairstyles and clothes, and they can all help to create an illusion, but at the end of it all, the genetic coding remains the same. The transsexual individual hasn't literally changed from one into the other, they have simply mutilated themselves. Remember what Dr. McHugh said, sex change is biologically impossible. People who undergo sex reassignment surgery do not change from men to women or vice versa, rather they become feminized men or masculinized women. Claiming that this is a civil rights matter or encouraging surgical intervention is in reality to collaborate with and promote a mental disorder. Indeed, transsexualism was officially classified as a psychiatric disorder by the World Health Organization in 1978. You can identify as any gender, sure you can, but the point is that it's delusional to identify as something other than what you are. I could identify as a ham sandwich or a goat, but it has no bearing on the facts. And when we insist that the world bend itself to accommodate our delusions, only to spare our feelings, things quickly get ridiculous. For example, if I identified as a professional footballer for Manchester United, should they feel obliged to accommodate my delusion by putting me on their payroll and letting me play for them on weekends? If a student flunked school but then identified as a top surgeon with top grades, should hospitals then indulge his delusion by letting him perform open heart surgery on patients? If an overweight couch potato identified as a world record-breaking Olympic gold medalist, should the International Olympic Committee accommodate that delusion by giving him a gold medal? Of course not. It doesn't matter what you feel. All that matters is what you really are. The world would descend into chaos if we were to accommodate everyone's individual delusions about who they are merely to spare their feelings. And yet that's what's happening with transgenderism. The world is bending over backwards to accommodate psychiatric disorders. Now, clearly the best thing that we can do for these people and for the world is not encourage it, but instead counsel them and try to bring healing into their situation. Why is their perception of themselves so disconnected from reality? That's simply not true. We've already mentioned how gender is entirely rooted in genetic programming. Male and female identities are fixed and immutable. Now, what you may mean is that gender roles are a social construct, but that's not really true either, as we spoke about in the previous episode. Traditional roles have largely emerged in response to biological facts. There is some debate to be had there, admittedly. Some women don't want to be mothers and some men would rather be stay-at-home dads. That's fine. But if you mean that maleness and femaleness doesn't really exist, then you are scientifically wrong. It's true that you can get more feminine women and more masculine women, and it's true that you can get more masculine men and more feminine men. But even allowing for diversity within the sexes like this, it doesn't negate the fact that at the end of the day, everyone remains biologically one or the other. A man who wears pink and enjoys the occasional bubble bath isn't a non-binary demi-boy boyflux, a cosmic gender who's part forest or swamp. He's just a man who strays a little bit from the traditional norm. And similarly, a woman who likes fixing cars and watching football isn't an effective gender, equigender, femme-fluid gender blur. She's just a woman who likes fixing cars and watching sports. No matter where you are within the male or female spectrum, the fact remains that you are still either male or female. It does quite a lot of harm, because remember, we're collaborating with mental illness and creating a world of absurd confusion in the process. Furthermore, we're not actually helping transgendered individuals when we indulge their delusions like this. The stats show that whatever internal turmoil has led them to reject their true identity, it remains unresolved even after surgery. Depression and suicide is far more prevalent in the transgender community. In fact, 41%, approaching half, have attempted suicide in the US. We mustn't affirm their disorder, but we must be caring enough to tell them the truth about it, to help them through their psychological issues. That is ultimately the most loving thing that we can do.